And here is our second passage of this particular mock that talks about climate change, particularly something called the effect on something called Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation. I'll be calling it AMOC for the rest of our discussion for the sake of brevity. So the very first paragraph talks about climate change being fueled by greenhouse gases, but it is less clear where the tipping point may reside. Tipping point is a point of no return. And then the second paragraph says one of those tipping points is AMOC. Thereafter, the exact details of tipping points like an AMOC shutdown have scientists concerned. Why are they concerned? They are not just worried about what is known but what isn't, and that's a plenty. And then you have then it gives you the details of AMOC, what AMOC is and how the water moves around this AMOC, and then the process, the scary thought, the scary idea that the process may be changing. Why? Rapidly warming world. And then what will happen according to a theory, and then the interconnections of the AMOC. Finally talking about the fact that we do not know what the slowdown is going to do, and that we don't know what will happen for sure. But then I think the overall tone is still a little more towards gloom, right? We know that it is going to be negative. So let's look at the first question. The very first question talks about the purpose of the passage. So the purpose is to make us aware of the fact that climate change is occurring and we may reach a tipping point. One of those tipping points is AMOC. So if you look at A, try and find the effect on climate should the AMOC shut down. No, that's not the core. B is given in the passage, but it is going to be very narrow. It talks about only the information that is mentioned in one particular paragraph. It goes on to ignore the rest of the paragraphs completely, and therefore can be to a large extent eliminated. Highlight the dangers to climate change should the functioning of AMOC be affected. That's pretty close. Let's look at D. Explain the concept of climate tipping point with AMOC as an example. Now see, the passage does mention AMOC as one of the tipping points, but it is not given as an example of the concept of climate tipping point. Rather, it is an instance of how grave or how serious the situation with respect to climate change could be. And that is why I think this can be ruled out. So the best answer choice for us for question number 5 is option C. Let's dive into the next one. Sixth, all of the following statements are true except, this is more or less what a specific detail question. So let's dive in. Climate change has an adverse effect on sea currents. So here is a line in the passage. Belt influences the climate, particularly around the Atlantic Ocean. So on the basis of this, we can definitely say that A is true. What are we looking for? We are looking for something which is not true. True except. So A is true. That's not our answer. B, researchers have established the effect on climate should the AMOC slow down. So are we sure that they have established the effect? In fact, here is a line from the passage. It says nobody can be sure what a major AMOC slowdown would do to the climate of today's world. So if you look at option B, this part that is mentioned in the passage actually goes on to contradict it, and therefore B is not true. Let's have a look at C. Salt and temperature both have an influence on AMOC's flow. Yes, that's true. And have a look at D. The slowdown in the flow of AMOC is linked to other climatic patterns or impacts. Here is the relevant part. Difficult to extricate, does not exist in isolation. So on the whole, now that we look at it, we can very convincingly say that A, C and D are true. B on the other hand is not true, and therefore our answer to question number 6 should be option B. Let's dive into the next one. Question number 7. Based on the passage, the author would support which one of the following actions? So adding nutrients to seawater in the polar regions. Okay. So yes, AMOC carries nutrients, yes, that flow will affect it, but we don't know what the effects are. Moreover, it is not even feasible. Imagine something that happens at a large scale using AMOC. How would humans even do it? It does not even appear to be a very feasible course of action, right? Moreover, it is not central to the problem. After all, polar region is not the only region which is going to get affected. B, government action to curb the emission of greenhouse gases? Absolutely yes. Greenhouse gases, climate change, tipping point, so definitely yes. C, planting trees in areas where there may be prolonged droughts. Hey, do we know which areas? It's a noble thought, we can do that too, but then we don't even know which areas are going to have that lack of water, and therefore this is an action that we cannot even take today. D, more funds for research on the effects on climate change. Should AMOC slow down? What is our core concern here? We know that the effects are likely to be negative. More research can probably tell you the exact kind of negative effects, the exact areas that will be affected, but then that's not our goal. Our goal is to prevent those tipping points from occurring. That's the central theme of this particular passage, and therefore D in that respect is going to be rather tangential and therefore can be ruled out, especially when I compare it to B. So between B and D, B is definitely something that the author is more likely to agree with, and therefore for question number 7 we should go ahead and choose B as our answer. And with that, let's dive into question number 8. Which one of the following statements can be inferred from the passage? So okay, A, an AMOC slowdown will have catastrophic consequences, particularly for the northern hemisphere. Okay, here is a part from the passage. It says nobody can be sure what a major AMOC slowdown would do to the climate of today's world. Now the answer choice says it is going to be catastrophic. How do I know it? Moreover, how do I know that it is going to be particularly more severe on the northern hemisphere? We don't know. We cannot be 100% certain, and therefore if I were to apply a label to it, I'd say option A, I'll call it can't say. Okay, let's have a look at B. A future AMOC slowdown will have to be evaluated in isolation. This is false. Here is the relevant part. So you notice because it does not exist in isolation, mentioned very clearly. So B is false. So A is can't say, B is false. How about C? The density of water is equal in both the tropics and in the polar regions. False. Here is the relevant information. Right? Rising salt content makes the water denser. So there is a difference in the density because the water evaporates. So C is also false. How about D? The effects of an AMOC slowdown are yet to be fully comprehended. Absolutely yes, we do not know. So if I were to start applying all of these labels, then A is can't say, B is false, C is false, and D is true, and that makes D the best answer choice for us, and therefore that's our answer, and that takes care of the second passage for us as well.